What up, what up? Welcome on in to Inside Baylor Sports, the official daily podcast of Baylor Athletics. It's almost Big 12 tournament time. Today we'll preview the Phillips 66 Big 12 Women's Basketball Championship in Kansas City as the Bears go for its 12th Big 12 tournament title. We'll also talk about Baylor's first matchup and what a path could look like to a title in Kansas City. Also look at Big 12 season awards that were released and give our reactions, all that and much, much more coming up on the show. Don't forget, you can catch Inside Baylor Sports every weekday. You can also watch the video version for free over at BaylorPlus.com. Like, subscribe, rate, and review the pod, and follow Baylor Plus today on X, Instagram, and Facebook. It's the official content network of Baylor Athletics. Think Netflix for your Baylor Bears. Download the app today, and you can also sign up for your free 7-day trial at BaylorPlus.com. It's Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. Justin Hoff alongside 2019 national champion Caitlin Bickle. Let's jump into the Big 12 season awards. Caitlin first came out yesterday, and the Bears getting some honors, but not as many honors as I'd like to see. Sarah Andrews, she gets second team. A couple honorable mentions for Baylor in this one. Dre, Asia, and Bugs all getting the honorable mention, but Sarah second team. And I think, honestly, I guess your first reaction to what you saw there. We can get into some of the other awards, what this kind of means and things like that, but I'll let you jump in there.
Yeah, I think when you look at it too, and I look at I tried to kind of look at individual stats, team stats, kind of based off of those awards, just kind of, I don't know, trying to get more details and looking at it. But some of the awards don't surprise me because I think our team is so different to so many other teams. I think in the Big 12 or a lot of teams around the country, you see like 2 or 3 stars on a team, or maybe 1 or 2. You know, you think about some of the other players in the Big 12, they're probably taking 20 plus shots a game. Like it's, you know, kind of the same thing every game. And I think this year for Baylor, I think they just had, obviously they had their ups and downs this season, win, loss, but I think they just had such like a variety of games where it wasn't just the same person leading every single game. You know, obviously Dre was our leading scorer in Big 12 conference play, so I was very shocked that she wasn't on second team, first team, something like that. I mean, she led the way for us. Bugs was second, and then Sarah. No shocker that Sarah got second team because Sarah's a fantastic player and she does so many other little things on the court for Baylor. But I think that's kind of what you almost got to pay attention to, is that it was a different player every game. You know, like it wasn't just the same player every game taking 15 to 20 shots for our team. It was very across the board, where there were several games with players averaging 5 to 15 points. And you know, so I think it stinks, and I didn't like seeing some of the awards obviously coming out, but I think I'm trying to think of it in that way of we're definitely across the board. We have like 5 to 7 players that are consistently scoring for us compared to other teams.
So 4 out there. Caitlin, is this motivation? Is this something that's used in locker rooms? You've been a part of a lot of teams. Do the players care about this stuff? Does it matter? Does it help them motivate?
I wouldn't exactly say you try to focus on it too much. Like, obviously, you know, we got excited last year when Bugs got Freshman of the Year, when Bella got mentioned, when Sarah got mentioned. You know, like those are all exciting things for a team. But almost I would want to use it as motivation. You know, I think they ended Big 12 conference play really, really strong, going 5-0. And I think not only using that momentum, but also kind of being like, oh, well, we're a little bit overlooked. And then you also kind of look at our path for the Big 12 tournament, and we've talked about it. It's almost like a revenge tour. You know, you're playing all these teams that you got beat by in Big 12 conference play. So it's kind of one of those things, like you can't be mad about it. You just got to let it fuel you and like kind of continue to continue this win streak.
Well, let's look at the awards by and large, right? We've covered the Big 12 some as well as Baylor, and looking at this. Co-Player of the Year. I'll say Co-Player of the Year. I'm guessing they got the same votes. Skylar Vann and Madison Booker. Vann from Oklahoma, Booker from Texas. I hate co-players. I don't like co. Okay, you got to find a way to break it up. It's got to go to one person. I do not like that whatsoever. That's off the top. Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Quinterly. Freshman of the Year, obviously Madison Booker if she's co-player of the year. Newcomer of the Year, Peyton Verhulst from Oklahoma. Sixth Player of the Year, Deanna Gaston from Texas. note on this one, I think Bella was definitely in line for this. Then she got moved into the starting lineup, and you can't start a certain amount of games. So she started too many games to get the award. I think she would have got it, but that's fine. Obviously she helped carry our team to a 5-game winning streak, the longest right now in conference play. And then Coach of the Year, Jenny Baranchek from Oklahoma. Anything that stands out there? And do you agree with me about the co-player of the year? It got to be one person.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, I definitely think one person for sure, and I think Madison Booker kind of deserved that this year. I think she definitely came out not only just as a freshman, but also you think about Rory Harmon getting hurt and the role change that Madison Booker had to take, and just the pressure almost like that team is pretty much on your back at that point. Like you're coming in as a freshman, you have to be a leading point guard. You have to take a position where Rory Harmon was probably one of the best point guards in the country, not just the Big 12 conference, but in the country. So I think she did a great job this year. I think that wasn't like a surprise to me. I think a shock to me just because I didn't know how much Gaston was in or out for Texas. I didn't see a ton of other six mans. Obviously, I didn't pay too much attention to that across Big 12 conference, but I know she was very much in and out of games. So I think that was the only one where I was like, oh, like maybe I just kind of hadn't seen a ton of her consistently throughout Big 12 play. And maybe that's just the one that I was kind of surprised about.
Due to the amount of starts, the one that Baylor, would have had an opportunity would have been Yaya. So just how it shook out there. But, one of those situations, too, you look at Booker, and I'm right there with you. I think that I would have, voted her for player of the year in the conference. Second in conference only games, some stats here for Madison Booker. Second in points, 20.2. In rebounding, she was top 20, 5.5 per game, 19th in rebounding, and then assist third at 5.5. Skylar Van, in terms of scoring, 8th in conference play, 15.6, rebounding at 7th. Obviously, I think, the fact that Oklahoma won the conference gave Skylar Van an upper hand. But, I'm not a huge fan of awards. A lot of times it can be politics. I don't care what awards, right? Awards show, I don't watch them. ESPYs, I don't watch that. Grammys, Emmys, forget it. I'm just anti-awards, you could say. I do watch, and obviously I'm there for Golden Bruisers, but that's the only award show I'm at, okay? All this other stuff, forget about it. The one award that I care about is Team Award, and that is what's coming up, the Big 12 tournament. That's the award. That's the trophy that we want, Baylor, everybody. And so a great opportunity this week, Caitlin, and you've been a part of this, several years. You've won some tournament titles, and starting tomorrow is the 2024 Phillips 66 Big 12 Championship in Kansas City. Baylor will begin its play on Friday as the number 5 seed as it plays the winner of Houston, Texas Tech in the second round. That second round game will be played at 11 a.m. on Friday on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. Caitlin, as a former player, what's this time of the year like?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. It's very it can go to like two different ways. Either like you're playing your best basketball, which I think can be the case for us right now with how we've ended Big 12 conference. And just avoiding kind of the negative side of things, because obviously things get a little bit more intense. You're on the road. It's kind of a you versus everyone. You're not just traveling for one day and coming back, and then you almost have to prep in a different way. I know this year, obviously, the schedule switched up a bit. We didn't play every team twice, which in the past that made things really difficult. I will say that can be sort of an advantage for us at least, because it's always in the past when you beat two teams, like if you beat a team twice, it was really, really hard to beat them a third time. Like you just knew each other so well. So I kind of like the different kind of setup this year with more teams. I think that's kind of, I know it won't last long. Like we're going to lose some teams, gain some teams, but I think it's great that, okay, we're not going to, maybe we'll see a team we've played twice already, but for us right now, most of the teams on our side of the bracket, we've only had to play once, which I think it's kind of like, okay, it could go either way. You're not exactly tired of playing them, which is nice. And then the other aspect is like we've lost to a bunch of those teams at least once. So it's kind of like, okay, this should make you want to play more. This should make you want to come out on top for sure.
All these adages, right, in sports and this time of the year, it's win or go home, survive and advance, do or die. And it really is those things. I mean, do you have nerves going into these games? I mean, are you excited? I guess every player could be different, but where were you at?
I don't I mean, so 2 years ago we made it to all the way to obviously lose to UT, and then last year we came up short and lost to Iowa State. Um, but I don't think it's really nerves. I mean, you try not to think about it. You try to just kind of play, go out there and play. But it is more of an excitement factor. I think last year we were getting ready to play our game, and we're watching TCU play Oklahoma. Mind you, TCU, just got a new coaching system, got all new players. But last year they were about to upset Oklahoma, who was like number 1 or number 2 seed. So it's kind of just the excitement factor. Not that it's March Madness yet, and we hear about upsets all the time, but that is a huge thing in conference tournaments. Just because, I mean, we talk about like if you win the whole thing, okay, you're automatically in the tournament, and then maybe you bump up your seed a couple spots. So I think that's kind of the excitement factor. Like some of these tournaments are so big for a lot of these teams, just because that can be kind of like a little push for the NCAA to kind of consider that team to move up or to even get put in to the tournament overall. So I think it's just more of an excitement factor. Like it's kind of just like it means a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think everybody involved, right? If you're a player, you're a coach, staff member. I know for many years when I was traveling to Kansas City, even as a member of a school's internal media team, I used to love seeing our competition for the other schools go home after a loss. Like, thank you, Caitlin. And you get to see them, kind of walk out. The media room gets more spacious. Just a great feeling to still be playing. And I'm sure the same could be said as a player. But yeah, let's take a look at this bracket. We'll pull it up on the screen here. And, I think a couple things. For one, the conference tournament is moved up a couple days. They're going to be playing in the T-Mobile Center, the same spot as the men. I think that's a great move and a move that needed to be made, and something I think, moving up a few days, we can focus solely on women's hoops. And the Big 12 is really strong in women's hoops. Right now, 7 teams projected to make the NCAA tournament, according to Charlie Cream at ESPN.com. And so we look at this one. Obviously, we look to the top there with Baylor, the first round games coming up tomorrow. Houston, Texas Tech, UCF, Cincinnati, 3 of the 4 new schools there on opening day. Second round, this is a single bye here. Baylor waiting for that matchup. TCU, Oklahoma State, BYU, Kansas, and then West Virginia, the winner of UCF, Cincinnati. Any of these second round games stick out to you, Caitlin?
I think I'm excited to see BYU and Kansas. I think just watching Lauren Gustin and Jackson go up each other is going to be really fun. And I think both teams just move the ball really well offensively. Obviously, they're not on our side of the bracket. But I think like Kansas has upset a few teams this year. So if they make it past BYU, like I think they could have, they could kind of be a challenge for other teams of, oh, can we pull off this upset? Just because I think they're really known for that. And then TCU, obviously, they just got Sedona Prince back. They've obviously kind of been up and down this year with injuries, but just kind of seeing with Sedona back going up against Hannah Guster, seeing if maybe they can pull off kind of that upset with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, mild upset there. When you get to the tournament, of course, working in the athletic department, never bet, okay? But you can pick brackets for bragging rights, okay? And I like to go chalk a lot, okay? Just straight up chalk. But you got to have some upsets, and especially in women's basketball, it's gotten so competitive, and the parity has, really turned over. I mean, it's a much different game than what it was even 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, I like a lot of chalk here in the second round. I do think you're onto something with TCU over Oklahoma State. I could definitely see that one. So let's move on to the quarters here. Projecting a little bit here, having some fun with Caitlin. Baylor, Iowa State. Man, that's going to be a fun matchup. Only played once. It was in Ames. So as you said before, the revenge tour. Maybe you see a TCU, Oklahoma, Kansas, BYU. I like Texas over either one of them. And then West Virginia, K-State, that could be an interesting battle as well. The quarterfinals on Saturday, that's when things start to heat up in this tournament.
Definitely. And I think a lot of those matchups we talk about, and I think there's been such random upsets at certain times in the year. So you, like you said, you really never know what's going to happen. Um, it's so tough. I see what you're saying with UT coming out, because I think they are definitely playing their best basketball right now. I think K State's kind of getting used to having Lee back with them. West Virginia's kind of had their little sparks of, okay, they're like playing their best basketball, but you don't know if that's going to happen. And then I think for us, like I think about when we play, like when we obviously we'll either play Houston or Texas Tech. If we move forward, then we'll play Iowa State. And I think we will need to play much better post defense, which I think we have done a lot better of a job in certain games, especially in the recent past games. And I think if you do that, you know, you kind of got them, and then it's just you almost get that little rematch against Oklahoma, um, which they don't really have like just a solid post. Obviously, they got a couple long girls, but no one that's just gonna kind of, I mean, do like what Kansas, what UT is gonna do to you. So that's always kind of a, I don't know. That's just an interesting game because they just score score the ball like no other team I've seen, and just run like they've got their pants on fire. So it's all going to be really interesting matchups for sure.
Yeah, they're fun. They get up and down the floor. And Skylar Van, 6'1", kind of, as you're saying, not a true post where you got a 6'4", 6'5", or someone like a Lee who's 6'7", and so, yeah, interested at the bottom of the bracket there. K-State, West Virginia, if those teams meet up, that should be a great matchup. K-State, they were really clicking, and then Lee got injured. I thought they were playing pretty good without her, and then she comes back, and they have not quite gotten back to K-State pre-Lee injury. And so maybe there's opportunity for them to elevate. I think if they meet Texas in the semifinals on Monday, that is going to be an absolute a blockbuster of a game. And then up on the top side, hopefully our Baylor Bears can run and get past, Houston or Texas Tech, get past Iowa State, and then maybe a matchup against Oklahoma. That could be a fun one. And then you can think about what that championship game could be like. Baylor, Texas, Baylor, K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma against one of those teams. I mean, this Big 12 women's basketball championship is going to deliver. However this thing shakes out, there's going to be tremendous games, and I'm here for it. And I'm hopefully here for that gold BU there on the map, moving, all the way till Tuesday and bringing back its 12th Big 12 tournament title, more than any other school out there. And we've had great times, in Kansas City on both sides. So looking forward to a great thing here. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch it all, lay down here. In terms of biggest key to success for this team to have a long run in March, beginning with the Big 12 tournament, what you got, Caitlin?
How many keys do I get? Do I just get one?
This is a podcast. You got unlimited keys.
Okay, maybe I'll go 3. Okay, turnovers. Can't turn over the ball. I think we've been up and down on that scale this year, and those games give me anxiety when we turn over the ball like 20 plus times. Whether or not we can guard a post. I think, in the games that we've been successful, we either get posts in foul trouble, or, we kind of just make them a non-factor. And then the last one I think is just the assists. I think every time that we get into the paint, we make extra passes. I think Jana and Sarah have done a fantastic job of that in the last 5 games, especially. And I think that's what's made us a much better team. That's kind of, when we're passing the ball, when we're sharing it, when we're making extra passes, we go from a good team to a great team, and I think not only, you think about turnovers, like defending a post, and then that, like I think those have been all the key factors of whether we do those things well or not is kind of what determines us winning a game or not.
Caitlin bringing all the keys. I can't disagree with anything there. And the one I would highlight really is just team basketball. Team basketball. So, and that can mean a lot of different things. And pretty much everything you said, right? Taking care of the basketball. That's some team basketball. We can't turn it over. I mean, when we don't turn the basketball over, this Baylor team can beat anyone in the conference, and we know that. So handle the rock and sharing the basketball, sharing the sugar. Oklahoma, why they win the regular season title? I don't think it's because, necessarily they have, star players. They have a great team. fun offense, but they share the basketball. They had over 20 assists per game in conference-only games, led the league. And when Baylor had more than 20 assists in any game this season, undefeated. So, if you get to 20 assists, I mean, obviously you got to make a lot of shots to get to 20 assists. But if you do that, I mean, Baylor can beat anybody. And so I think that's a big one. Playing unselfish, playing your role. Team defense. Caitlin, I know you mentioned defense, and you're big on the defensive side of the basketball, but just team defense. And, you think about Utah, Texas, Oklahoma State, those wins for Baylor. I thought we played really well team basketball. We're better when the sum of all parts are there, not just one individual. So I know that's something all these teams know, right? Like that's obvious, Captain Obvious, duh. But it's hard to do that, with 18 to 23-year-olds to have that every single night. But if we can play some team basketball, this team could have a really fun March, which could include some net cutting. I know that's a lot of fun, but it's really that piece. Hey, just put all the egos aside, forget who scores. Let's just help each other out and knowing we're better together, and let's go do this thing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing about, team basketball too is just the mental side of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I mentioned it before, but in the few games before we kind of started this winning streak, like we just didn't really look like we were having fun. Like we didn't look like we were enjoying it. We looked like we were two in our heads. We didn't look like we were kind of coming together. And I think the last few games, you saw it in senior night how much fun they were all having. Obviously we kind of started off slow, went on a little run, started off slow coming out in the second half. But then, we got into a rhythm. We were sharing the ball. We were pushing the ball. And we were just kind of dissecting their defense and taking what they were giving us. And I think that's like the biggest thing, like get out of your heads, like enjoy it and just take what a team's giving you. And I think that's a huge thing that leads to team basketball. Instead of, I'm going to take this shot, why don't you pass it up for an even better shot type of thought process. So hopefully they kind of continue that, because I think that's what's been really at least making them enjoy it more and gotten them on this winning streak.
Play free, right? You're the number 5 seed. You are not picked to win this as the number 5 seed. So go out there. You can feel some type of way about the awards. Use that as motivation. Go out there, show it on the court. That trophy on Tuesday night, that trophy that's held up, that's the most important award given right now. And so go get that one. And so it's going to be fun to watch. But right now, Baylor, the longest active winning streak in the conference at 5 games. And, the path to hosting the NCAAs is pretty clear. It's getting more clear by the day. Hey, you win 4 games in Kansas City, you're guaranteed, right? You can clean that up. You get that trophy, you're guaranteed to host. You win 3 games in KC, including a win over Oklahoma. You're looking really good. Heck, you win 2 games. You beat Iowa State. Just take care of the next game in front of you, and everything else will kind of, play out, control what you can control. But Baylor right now has the most top 25 wins in the Big 12 with 6, and sitting as a number 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, according to Charlie Cream, 16th in the net, 17th in the AP and coaches poll. And, you got to be top 16. So right there on the bubble to host. And so, yeah, take full advantage of the opportunities in Kansas City. And, I was going to say this too, Caitlin, as you were talking there, the video boards at Foster are so big, right? And the stats are out there. So you could easily glance up there and say, well, I don't have any points. I don't have any rebounds and this and that. Is that something? I know you necessarily wouldn't do that. You'd be looking for the charges, which is not included up there. But is that something that players do? And I really hope that for all these teams, honestly, no matter what team you're on, that they just play team basketball this week and not no hero ball, not looking to get theirs and just trying to get in the game. Heck, earlier in the week, Jalen Bridges. I mean, this guy's on fire, but Scott Drew said that he didn't force it, right? He took like 11 shots in the game, and he was making pretty much all the shots. That's not normal. Usually when you're hot, you just start chucking shots, heat check. But is that something that you did? Ever look around, see what your player stats were?
No, unless we were like on the bench at the end of the game. Like we did this a ton with Liz, because Liz was like a double monster, like in games where, okay, you're like 2 points from a record. We're kind of like, go. Like, no, keep her, like we're more, if you're sitting on the bench kind of end of game, we're kind of like, no, like we're not subbing in for her. Like we have done that a couple times just because I think more so we enjoy it for the other girls. Like I know we enjoyed it a few times for like some of our teammates, or like maybe someone needed like a rebound or one assist, like, and we were always so big, like we'd like jump out of the way so someone could get a rebound, but those are just kind of like fun little teammate things. I don't think we ever, really focused. I know I didn't. I was always worried, okay, how many fouls do I have? Maybe what's the score if I wasn't too distracted in the game. But I always caught myself in timeouts like, okay, hold on. Like I actually need to see what the score of the game is. Because you kind of just don't really always think to look up there. But I think they just got to have fun with it. Like you said, I mean, you talk about Bridges and men's basketball, and I agree. I mean, when I watched their game yesterday, just hearing the announcers kind of like, oh, he's got to shoot that, and I'm like, no, like no, like it was really smart, like you said. Like I thought we even kind of saw it. You kind of just got to feed the hot hand, and I think we've done a really good job of that as of late. Like you saw Dre and Asia in their senior night game. Asia couldn't be guarded in the post, so we kept just going to her, kept going to her. Okay, all of a sudden Dre's getting into kind of a pick and pop and hits a shot. Okay, let's go right back to her. And she hits another, so I think those are kind of the little things that they got to continue to do and just go to the hot hand. And maybe there's 3, 4 hot hands in a game. You never know, but I think that's just kind of what they need to continue to do and not force anything and just enjoy it.
Yeah, Jalen Bridges, he's 22, right? That's a mature move on his part, but heck, you see it in the NBA or WNBA, and I can't blame him, right? If you're making every shot, I say shoot it, right? I'm just like the announcers, but yeah, if you're going to look around and glance for stats, go look for the team score, okay? That's the stat you need to be looking at. But we kid and we joke, but I'm sure players look to see their stats, right? And they're not just looking at fouls and rebounds. They're looking at that points. That's the one that really matters to some. And so once again, for Baylor and for any of these teams, play team basketball. I think it's going to be a great tournament ahead, though. And, I guess final question for you, Caitlin. If you, once again, glancing, but if you have success in the Big 12 tournament, what can that do for a team's psyche and, possibly springboard them into the big dance?
Yeah, we talk about momentum so much, and I don't want to continue to talk about it, but it is huge. I think, we kind of lost short last year, and we had to go to a really tough environment to go play in and play against Alabama and UConn. You think about, okay, maybe we get 4 wins in the Big 12 tournament, and then all of a sudden maybe we can host, or maybe we get a better seed to the point of, oh, like this is great for us. Like maybe we kind of, not exactly an easier path, but just a more comfortable path in the first game or two, that kind of leads to more and more success. And then I also just like the factor of the further we go into Big 12 tournament, and I don't know how other players feel about this, but I would hate to have just like a week break. Like maybe that's just me, but I would much rather be playing in basketball games and continuing to win or just continuing to compete than like, yeah, let's, go back to Waco and practice for a week while you got to watch all these other teams play. Like that's just, I think that's kind of what messes up with your head a little bit, the mental side, where you're just sitting there like, well, like this sucks. Like it's not like it's the end of the world because you still have tournament play, but it's kind of just like, this isn't fun. Like playing basketball games is so much more fun than just like going back to the gym and practicing all week. So I think that's kind of what I think about when I'm like, yeah, you definitely want to make it further, not only just to get a higher seed, but also just the fact of not having to practice for a full week. And that just gets boring.
Yeah, always more fun to play the games and practice, right? Allen Iverson, who wants to go to practice? Practice, really? I was starting to think as you're talking, though, as we finish out here, and I was like, man, I kind of feel bad for Caitlin's back. I know you've had with the charges, I mean, a lot of, back to the ground a lot, and you're back. I mean, you don't want no breaks. You need the break for your back to get healthy, right? All those nicks, any scrapes and bruises, get healthy and get right for the tournament.
Yeah. But you know what? There were some aspects in practice where I because obviously like if I got hurt in a game, like I got trucked over a couple times or like slammed into a couple screens last year, couldn't practice like the next day. Like I really just messed up the back. And Shalisa would be like, you can't fall. You cannot take a charge in practice. Like Tony would say the same thing. There were certain drills that they would just be like, go stand like on the sideline and clap. And I think like that's almost worse for someone like me because I don't think about that stuff. Like I'm more so like, oh, if a ball's on the ground, like I'm gonna dive head first for it. Like I'm that person. So for me, even though it's kind of like, okay, body's messed up, you're hurt and you're in pain, like I don't want to say it's like the fun part of basketball because I'd much rather not be in pain, but I would honestly take the pain and keep playing rather than, like being told like just stop, like just stand, like, let it go.
No pain, no gain. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll say, man, Caitlin, we saw it the other night too from Texas. You were a junkyard dog at Baylor, just willing to do anything, right? And if you're in basketball, you know what that term, right? That's a compliment, right? You're willing to take charges, dive on the floor like Mark Vital, do different things, and you could score too. You could score as well. But Brock Cunningham from Texas, I know not exactly a fan favorite, but he's that type of guy too, right? You're willing to fight over screens, knock people over, do what you got to do out there. And every team's got to have one of those, and you really appreciate them when they're on your team. And so that's why Caitlin Bickle is always a fan favorite and why we got her on the podcast. But hey, Caitlin, appreciate your time. Looking forward to all these games. I'm excited.
I'm so pumped. I can't wait for them to start playing again.
That'll do it for today's edition of Inside Baylor Sports, a Sport and Story production. Thanks for listening. For Caitlin Bickle, I'm Justin Hoff. Have a great Wednesday, and Sick 'em Bears.